my first time kind of going live on YouTube. So it is a trial and error. I didn't even know that I could go live until today. So I'm going to share with you one of our online classes, YOGAVIBE FLOW, which is an intuitively written class. I teach yoga for pretty much for a minute over 40. Yoga for health and well-being, because a lot of yoga has kind of got lost along the way. You know, there's some amazingly beautiful, gorgeous, really flexible people out there, but the majority of people, me included, are not hypermobile. So I kind of teach focusing on health and well-being rather than teaching fancy poses. So I'm just simply inviting you to kind of observe and join in if you wish my Wednesday class, which is part of our online community. And if you'd like to know more about our online community, then just drop a comment and come and see what it's all about. So let's get started. Oh, let's do that bit. Good morning. Nope, it's not said it yet.
Recording in
there
progress.
There she is, recording in progress. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Now, do I need to put the thing up? Is that going to be too dark? Sometimes with the sunlight, can't quite tell. If it becomes an issue, let me know, because sometimes with the sunlight, the camera tries to basically pick up the strongest source of light, and so like with sunlight that can chop and change, so it can kind of go dark and light, dark and light. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So we're going to start off in a wide leg child's pose. As always, if you have any issues kneeling, you can put some padding underneath your knees. You can put padding, blankets, or rolled up towel or something behind your knees. So just start by adjusting your trousers if need be. Taking the knees as wide as you can, and kind of like have a little wiggle and jiggle around. Start to feel that stretch in the hips and inner thighs, nestling your bum on your heels, and kind of so have a little kind of jiggle, wiggle around. You know, we're not made of concrete. You know, see where you need to move today. Maybe a little bit of a spine flex, even with the hands on the thighs. Inhaling heart forward, exhale round. So also warming up into the spine and into your hips. Head stays in a neutral position. Just seeing how it feels today, what you need to do. Maybe you need to slow it down a little bit. And then we're going to start to walk the hands out. Really notice how it feels. I went, a friend of mine's got a horse box, just bought a horse box. So we took the horses back to the woods the other day. I haven't ridden properly for a while, and anyone who thinks you're just sitting on a horse doing nothing has obviously never ridden a horse. And so my inner thighs are like, oh my goodness gracious. So I'm a little bit tender, shall we say, on the inner thighs. So feel into it as you walk the hands out. Treat each class as if it's the first class ever. Each pose, even if it's a pose you've done 1,000 times before, treat it like it's the first time you've done it. So really with a sense of kind of exploration and a sense of curiosity. And instead of just collapsing down to the floor, kind of maybe bring a little bit of movement in here. Almost imagine waving the spine side to side a little bit. So as if the spine is fluid. Imagine literally waving from tailbone to crown. And As you breathe in, draw your heart forward, lift your chin slightly. As you breathe out, give me like a little cat flex. So imagine lifting through the back of the heart, draw your chin to your chest. So inhale as you draw your heart and your chin forward. Exhale as you arch up. Just do that a couple of times. So again, it won't be a massive movement compared to like a normal spine flex. So notice where you do feel it. And notice if there's a sense of frustration because you're not getting a massive move as we would normally, as it were. And just acknowledge that frustration. Again, just have a sense of curiosity. And see if you can stretch your hands out a little bit further. Maybe take a little bit wider if your shoulders are tight. And then finally melt your forehead down onto the ground. So if the head doesn't touch the floor, you can either just let it hang, or you can use a block or a cushion to support your head. So again, see what feels right for you. Our head, I often find that we tend to think we've relaxed it, but we've not. It takes a good few breaths. So especially if your head doesn't touch the floor, really try and relax it. So with each exhale, imagine relaxing your jaw. So relax the hinge where your jaw attaches onto your skull. In fact, just let's do our best horse impression. So keep your head on the floor and kind of blow through the lips. So as you exhale, as if you're doing a kind of raspberry or a horse impression. It may seem a bit silly, but notice how that releases your jaw and brings a little smile to your face because we often feel a bit silly doing that. So do that a couple of times. Inhale through the nose. Exhale. And notice how it just makes your whole face tingly when you do that. One more inhale, expand your ribs. And if we can't laugh at ourselves, then all is lost really. We need to be able to laugh at ourselves. Life is really serious. There's enough serious and nefarious crap going on. We need to be able to laugh at ourselves. And release. And lifting your head and looking forward, and start to walk your hands in towards you. Again, feel your way as if you're kind of moving through treacle almost. So notice how it feels to come in and out of the poses. Maybe bring the knees in just a tad, keeping the hands on the floor. And again, another little spine flex. Inhale as you draw your heart forward. Exhale as you round, tucking the chin in. Breathing in and out. You can focus on the movement from your tailbone to the base of the skull. And notice how you feel it in your tailbone, in your pelvis, in your inner thighs. That freeing up movement through your inner thighs and hips. Come back to center, bring your knees in and just tuck your right toes under. Just tuck the right toes under so you're sitting on the right heel. Give that foot a little bit of a stretch. If you need to come up off that foot, then do so. Just stretch those toes out. And release that foot and tuck the left toes under. If you've got any toes that get stuck, free them. Yeah, just take a breath here. And tucking both toes under, sitting on the heels if you can. Maybe you can pop a cushion or blanket behind knees if need be. Feel that stretch in your toes and in the soles of your feet. And whilst you're here, let's just circle out your wrists. I know a lot of people struggle with stretching their toes, bending their toes, so it may not be the most comfortable position, but it should feel good when we come out of it. Then go round the other way. And take your one hand out, pull the hand towards you, stretch out your wrist. And to breathe nice and deeply throughout. And palm facing the other way, pull it towards you. And switch. And pull the hand towards you. Notice how it feels on this side. If it feels any different. You want to go far enough so you get a good stretch, but not so you stop breathing. And then again, turn the hand palm away, pull it towards you again so you get a good stretch in your wrist. And shake out the hands. Bring the fingertips to the floor, gently untuck your feet and sit back. Bring yourself into a child's pose. You might want to open the knees out slightly, arms down beside you. Allow your forehead to melt down to the floor. Allow your shoulders to relax, arms to relax down to the floor. And just take this time to check in. And the quote I picked today is that yoga doesn't just change the way you see things, it changes the person who sees. So in other words, the practice, and by yoga I mean the whole practice, not just the yoga poses, but the whole philosophy, etc. So it doesn't just change the way we see things, doesn't just change the way we look at things, but also changes us. It changes us, and that's what we're meant to do. I remember last year sometime had a little bit of trouble, shall we say, with some long-term students who I just wasn't a good fit for them anymore. They didn't like the fact that I had changed, and I was trying to explain that that's what we're here for as humans and as teachers. You know, we change, we grow, we evolve. And sometimes students outgrow their teacher, so they may, need to go on to another teacher. Sometimes the other way around. So sometimes, we're just not a good fit, and that's okay. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with me. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. But we are here to change, to grow, to evolve. We're not just here. It's not like, oh, that's it. We're adult now. That's it. Boom, done. No changes. That is when we kind of become stagnant, and that is when we can experience issues in life because we're not changing along with everything in nature. Is constantly changing, evolving, growing. And from here, come back, bring your hands to the floor, tuck your toes under. We're going to push into a standing forward bend. So walk the hands towards you. So your knees are lifted off the floor. Remember, if you can't touch the floor when your legs are straight, use a block or a bolster. And then see if you can slowly start to open up the backs of the knees. So think of opening up the backs of the knees rather than straightening the legs. So just a change in wording, but thinking of opening up rather than just slamming the knees shut. So it doesn't matter if the legs aren't totally straight. Feel that stretch in the backs of the legs. If the hamstrings are really quite tight still, then you can inhale, bend the knees deeply, look slightly along the floor, and exhale as you lift your tailbone. Again, think of lifting the tailbone and opening up the backs of the knees. So inhale, bend, look along the floor, and exhale as you lift. Just a couple more times. So if you can't reach the floor, you can have your hands on the shins or whatever, or you can use blocks or bolsters or any other prop to bring the floor closer to you. And focus also on the stretch from your tailbone to the crown of your head. So you're stretching out the muscles alongside the spine as well. And you should find, or could find, that each time you stretch a little bit deeper, or it just feels a little bit different, spread out the toes, pressing into all four corners of the feet. Remember, there's no perfect pose, there's no end destination, there's no there to get to. There's just here, right now, and wherever you are is perfect. This time release the arms, relax the head, but just turn the head a little bit side to side a couple of times. 2, release your neck, and do another little horse impression. So inhale through the nose, exhale, relax the jaw. And bend the knees deeply, draw your belly button in, and start to slowly unfurl. So start to rebuild the spine, tailbone, pelvis, waist, lower ribs, shoulders, neck, and then the head unfurls last. And just take a moment to kind of get your bearings, to feel the ground beneath your feet, to notice the space around your body, and to experience your body in space. And keeping the feet underneath your hips. Just lift the toes. Imagine doing a little Mexican wave with the toes a couple of times. So as if you're trying to touch down from the little toes to the big toes. Imagine doing it one at a time. If you can manage to actually do it, I want to see a video. But just imagine that's what you're doing, just to bring awareness to your feet. Keep in mind that you are balancing right now. We're always balancing, just usually we're on 2 feet instead of 1 foot. And then feel the ground beneath your feet. Gently press through your big toe, little toe, inner, outer heel. Like you've got 4 little suction pads on the corners of your feet. Feel the weight equally between both feet. And imagine roots extending down from the soles of your feet, down through the floor, down through the foundations, like tree roots. Grounding you, keeping you strong. At the same time, stretching the crown of the head up towards the sky. I'm going to take my jump rock, it's getting nice and warm, that's all good. So always feeling the ground, and imagine the ground supporting you. Imagine Mother Earth is supporting you. I'm just going to start off inhaling a little chair pose variation. So imagine there's a chair behind you, and come back up as if you're changing your mind. As you're doing that, make sure the knees are in line with the toes, so you're not kind of like doing knock knees or out to the side, and sitting well back. Literally as if there's a chair behind you rather than the knees forward. But as you do that, try not to stick the bum out too much. Remember, lengthening through the tailbone so we start to engage our tummy muscles. And just gently drawing the belly button in, drawing the pelvic floor muscles in and up. I'm going to do a little eagle pose variation. So just bend the knees just a little bit. Open the arms out, soften the shoulders, and just start to take the weight onto your right foot. So you just start to lift the weight off your left foot. Take the knee across, so you're stacking the knees. So it's as if you're doing a one-legged chair pose. So it's like this, but it's a one-legged one instead. So you've still got hip, knee, ankle, still sink deep. Imagine hugging the legs in. And actually I find the kind of deeper I go, although it works the legs more, I actually find it easier to balance than if I'm up here. I find I'm less stable up here than if I'm down here. So again, imagine that chair pose shape, lengthening through the tailbone, so you're engaging the core, just pressing one knee on top of the other, finding a point to focus on, opening your wings, spread out your fingers. Relax the shoulders, relax your jaw, take a nice deep breath in, and out, sink a little bit deeper. As you come up, see if you can just hug that knee in towards the chest, and release, feet underneath the hips again, inhale, little chair pose, exhale as you come up, and spreading out your toes, pressing into all 4 corners of your feet. Lengthen through the tailbone so you're not sticking the bum out too much. Coming into it on the other side, so a little mini chair pose. Gradually shift the weight onto your left side. Keep your eye gaze steady on your point. Remember, one side is often a bit more challenging than the other. Hug the legs in, open your arms out, spread your fingers out, soften your shoulders, press your elbows back into your wings. So imagine like wings extending out. Relax your jaw and sit back. as if you're in that chair pose, lengthen through the tailbone. The only difference is you're on one leg. Breathe, nice deep breaths. As you come up, see if you can hug that knee in towards the chest. And release. Fantastic. Now, if you do have bricks, or you have two books that are like the same size shape, you might like to try using them. If you don't have them, don't panic. But they are quite handy, and as I say to people, you know, there are different uses for bricks, blocks, etc. And we will demonstrate the uses of the bricks when we come into pyramid pose, Parsvottanasana. So we've been doing this for the past couple of weeks. So the feet hip width apart, taking that right foot back, keeping the feet hip width apart. So we don't want to be too narrow, we don't want to be too wide. So literally sliding that foot back, upper body nice and level, hips nice and square. So as you come forward, it's just as if you would if you had both legs in under the hips. So we're not kind of like, what's the word? Gravitating towards that foot. Lift that back heel for a second, breathe in. As you breathe out, really press that heel into the floor, energize that leg. Inhale, bend the knee a little bit, front knee a little bit. Exhale, push the floor away. Focus on that line from your tailbone to the crown of the head. Inhale, elbows back. As you exhale, hinge forward, just coming into that flat back position. And when you're here, we want to focus on energizing the legs, both legs, because we tend to forget the back leg in this position. Or in fact, any position where there's one leg behind us, we tend to forget about it. So push into both legs and then length from your tailbone rather than bending from the ribs. So if you feel like you're compressing your inner organs, it's likely that you've bent from the ribs rather than, so imagine leading with the chest, almost as if you're going, sticking the chest out. So it feels like you're kind of like banana shape, but actually it's a nice flat back shape. Keep drawing that left hip towards you, and on your next exhale, you're going to come all the way down, bring your hands either to the floor or to your bricks, blocks, too many B's. The good thing about, or one of the good things about bricks is that you can have them on the top, on your longest side. You can bring them down, you can bring them down, so as you kind of get a bit more flexible, you can adjust them, and they're light enough that you can pick them up and play around with them. So focus on length, and even if you can touch the floor, just barely with your fingertips, sometimes having something firm, you'll actually sink a little bit deeper. It's like the body goes, it's okay, I can release a little bit more, I've got something to press into. Just like when we sit with blocks under the knees, you seem to relax the hips more because you've got something to press against, to rest against, to release against, I guess. So if you need to, you can start off with the blocks kind of higher up. Again, imagine lengthening from your tailbone to the crown of the head. Keep pulling that left hip towards you. So again, bricks are great. Blocks, bricks, sorry. Too many B's. Are great if you can't quite reach the floor, because they bring the floor up to you, and you'll notice a big difference compared to kind of like either up here or barely touching the floor. Because if you're barely touching the floor, you're probably tensing somewhere that we don't want to be tensing. After your next exhale, bend the front knee a little bit, bring your hands back to your hips, come all the way up through that flat back position. When you get up, firm up that front leg, so push into that front leg, squeeze your butt, start to lift your chest, lift your hips, press the elbows back, lift your eye gaze. Remember that back bend shape down to that back foot. And so lift your eye gaze rather than your chin. And looking slightly forward. You're going to take the weight onto that front foot and come to a little mini tree pose. So you're going to bring the weight onto that front foot. come into a little tree pose variation, whatever that might be for you. That might be toe on the floor, that might be here. You might bring it all the way up. Just make sure you're not pressing on your actual knee. And release. Awesome. And do the same on the other side. So noticing if one side feels different to the other. So taking that left foot back. If you've got floorboards like I have, they're great for using as a guide. So I've got one foot in each kind of floorboard. And so as I take my left foot back, it's still in their floorboard, because sometimes I see people take their foot way too wide and then it's just too much on the hips, or we don't want to go too narrow either because that's harder to balance. So literally about hip width. Inhale, bend, lift that back heel, sorry. Bend that back knee, then exhale, really press into that heel as if you're trying to push through the floor. Notice how that energizes that back leg a little bit more. And at the same time, now bend the front knee, and then exhale, push the floor away. So you're really drawing up from your roots, still pressing into all four corners of your feet. Get that sensation of the line from your tailbone up to the crown of the head. So inhale, stick your chest out. Exhale, coming forward just halfway to start with that flat back position. So straight forward, make sure you're not gravitating towards that leg. So the upper body is just as it would be if you had both feet under the hips. Keep energizing your legs. Keep pulling this right thigh muscle up into your hip socket. Draw your belly button in slightly. Stretch, stretch, stretch forward out to the crown of the head. Take another breath in. As you breathe out, come all the way down. Bring your hands either to the floor or to your bricks. I have to think what they're called. And so do try it, even if you can touch the floor. If you're just on the fingertips, try it with bricks. You'll notice, sometimes even I use them, even though I can touch the floor. And notice how much deeper you get into the stretch, because it's like you can feel more supported by the floor, and so you can turn them on different heights, and that's one of the good things. And then, like I said, they're light enough that you can move them, you can adjust them. So looking down towards your toes, keep energizing both legs, keep drawing that right hip towards you. Let's see if you can lift your shoulders to cover the back of your heart. After your next exhale, bend the front knee, hands to hips. Inhale, come forward and up. Coming back through that flat back position. As you start to lift up, push into that front foot, straighten the leg, start to come to the back bend, lift your chest, press the elbows back, lift your eye gaze. So make sure you're not sticking the chin out. Just lift your eye gaze, squeeze your tush, stretch out the front of the body. Now come up, find a point to focus on, shift the weight onto that front foot, find your tree variation, hands to heart. Maybe you might choose a different variation on this side, that's okay. And release. Feet back underneath the hips. Taking the arms out again. Bend the knees into a little mini chair pose. Start to take the weight onto the right leg. Again, taking the foot across. This time, see if maybe you can wrap the toes around. Squeeze those legs together. Again, open the arms out, spread the fingers out. Maybe sing a little bit, woo, deeper. A little bit, woo, a little bit deeper. Relax the shoulders. Again, squeeze. Squeeze those legs together. So even I have a wobble, it's okay. You just got to laugh about it and just readjust. Smile if you've not got far to fall. We're on a rock hurtling through space, so we're going to have a bit of wobbles. Then come up, hug that knee in towards the chest. Woo! And release. For the ground beneath both feet, find your chair pose variation. Start to shift the weight onto the left and take the knee across. And maybe see if you can wrap the toes around, bend a little bit deeper. Again, you're just doing a chair pose, one-legged. Squeeze the legs, squeeze the belly. Keep your eye gaze steady on your point. Then coming up, hug that knee in, and really shake out the legs a little bit, grab a drink if you need to. Then coming back into pyramid pose. So we're working towards our funky flamingo pose. So I'm going to turn sideways to help you. This, coming into this pose, bricks can be very handy to kind of get a sense of this pose. So again, keeping feet hip width apart, taking your right foot back, push that back heel to the floor, push the front heel to the floor. So we don't want legs not energized. Really energize the legs, pressing to all four corners of the feet. Inhale, lift through the chest. Exhale, this time coming straight down. So coming forward, finding that length, and coming straight down. Bring your hands on to your bricks. So whichever setting, if you like, that you're on, really draw that left hip towards you. I'm going to walk the hands, taking the bricks with you, to the back of the mat. So we're aiming to rest pretty much on this front thigh, walking the hands back behind you, keeping that front leg energized, and you're going to bend the back knee, lift the heel, as if you're trying to bring that back knee towards your right elbow. So imagine trying to touch that right elbow so you feel the energy in the legs. So basically you're kind of like relying on this front leg to hold you, press into the hands. Imagine bringing that back knee to that right elbow. And don't worry if you wobble a little bit, it's all practice. Then press through the heel. If you want to try a little bit of funky flamingo, you can try it either with or without the blocks. So basically, fingertips to the floor, you bend that right elbow a little bit, and you try and bring that right knee on to that elbow. So again, either with or without the blocks, and then try and take that back foot off. So you're resting the knee on the elbow. Give it a go, even if it only lasts a couple of seconds. Woo! Then release. Again, practice makes progress, remember? Bring the hands forward again. Now lift up halfway. Bend that front knee, hands to the waist. Exhale, push all the rest of the way up. When you get there, firm up the thigh, lift through the chest. This time take the arms up and out, open heart, lifting your eye gaze, feel that little mini back bend. And look forward, bringing that back foot into your tree variation. Woo. And release. Always keep in mind, practice makes progress. Not perfect, no such thing as perfect. Practice makes progress. And progress, just like anything in nature, does not go in a straight line. It goes woo. So one week it might be great, next week it might be rubbish. Doesn't matter. So we do the same on the left. So we can take the left foot back, really energize those legs. Now lead with the chest, exhale coming forward, that nice flat back position. Bring your hands on to your bricks, walking the hands back behind you. As if you're trying to walk to the back of the mat, kiss your knee, mwah. Lovely knee. And energize that front leg, lift your back heel. Bend the back knee, so pretty much all the energy, all the weight, if you like, is on this front leg. So you're getting a kind of sense of flamingo pose, getting a kind of sense of, and it took me a few attempts to get this pose, so don't worry if you don't get it first time. Then release. Again, if you fancy trying flamingo, either with hands on the blocks, or fingertips to the floor, so bend your elbows slightly, bring that left knee so it's on top of the elbow, find a point, adjust your hands so you can lift that back foot off, so you're working the whole body. Again, it took me a few attempts to get it. And release. So where I have my hands, or where you have your hands, Might be slightly different. That's why I always say play around with it. Then bend the front knee, inhale. Look along the mat. Hands to the waist. Exhale. Rise the rest of the way up. And now come into that back bend. Open heart, lift chin. And exhale, look forward. And inhale, bring that back foot into your tree variation. And release. Awesome. Fantastic. Okay, we're going to end here today. We're not going to do any more of the rest of the sequence. We're going to come down into our sitting position. So if you need to sit on a chair, that is perfect. Or a cushion, as I am doing. Sit in any position that you can maintain nice tall spine. So if that is not sitting, again remember, if you're slouching and you're compressing your lungs and your digestive organs, that is not going to help you breathe. So sit up, also without gripping and tensing neck, shoulders anywhere. So you want to be able to comfortably maintain that straight spine without gripping or tensing. And you can put cushions or whatever blocks underneath your knees so that you can press the knees down into the floor. So Sudarshan Chakra Kriya. Left hand, bring your thumb and index finger together. Rest that hand on your thigh. Head in line with spine. Head straight so it's not dropping in or lifting up. So we inhale through the left side. Exhale through the right, cartilage halfway down. As you breathe in left, you hold the breath and you pump the belly up to 16 times. So just count. If you can't quite make 16, just do as many as you can, making sure that you're still able to exhale slowly through the right side. So to begin with, I say it might go a case of like 10, 5, 12, 3. So don't be surprised if, as I said, it's not linear. Don't be surprised if it's not consistent. There are some days when it won't be consistent. There'll be other days when you can do 16 straight away. Just as with any other part of the practice, where you are today is perfect. So inhaling through the left. You can either keep the hand there or release it as I do. Pump the belly, just counting. If you can do more than 16, don't. Just do the 16. So if you can't do 16, just make a note each time of how many. Then exhaling through the right. So don't be disheartened if it's one of those days when you can barely manage 6. That's okay. You're still exercising your lungs. You're still getting benefits. And after a couple of rounds, you might go up to 7, then you might go up to 10, etc. Don't push it to the point where you're kind of gasping. Once you know what you're doing, close your eyes, turn your eye gaze in and up towards that third eye point, so that space between and behind the eyebrows. Imagine a little point of light, so you're also activating your pineal gland as well as working your eye muscles. Also imagine stretching out through the crown of the head whilst relaxing the hips. So always inhaling left, pumping the belly, and exhaling right. Just observing, no judgment. Always want to do it on an empty stomach. So basically you're not digesting anything, otherwise you're basically squishing your food and it possibly will make you feel nauseous. So if you too have eaten anything in the just literally before class, then miss out the belly pumping. Just hold the breath and count and imagine you're doing it, and resolve next time not to have a nice bit of sourdough bread with a bit of boursin cheese before class. See, even I still make mistakes. Wherever you are, just make this one your last round. I put a post on Facebook this morning that's basically like, nothing in nature is linear. Nothing in nature ever goes in a straight line. And as I said, that's the same for our progress. And so often we become disheartened because we feel like we're making progress, and then we'll have a week or two maybe when we can't do something we did the week before. And so we think we've gone backwards. It's not that. It's just things change, our energy changes, our mood changes. So much can affect how we are on each given day, and that's why it's important to have a completely neutral mindset. This is what it means by yoga doesn't just change the way we see things, it changes the person who sees, because it's teaching us to observe ourselves without judgment, and that's still a work in progress. I'm still working on it as well. There are days when I judge myself and days when I compare myself, but I'm more aware that I'm doing it, so I can put a stop to it. And awareness is key. Once you develop that awareness, you can then take steps to change it. But nothing ever just boom overnight changes, because that's just not the way that nature works. It takes a while. So when you've finished your last round, you can relax the hands. You can either stay where you are or bring yourself into a Shavasana, laying on the mat, legs nice and wide, allow your feet to fall out to the side. Have your arms, palms up, away from the body. If the head feels like it's tipping back or there's any tension in your neck or shoulders, then just pop something underneath your head. Sometimes people only need like the thinnest cushion or a rolled up, a folded up towel or something, just to keep the head in line with the spine, so that the breath can flow with ease. So make any adjustments that you need to. And when you're comfortable, close your eyes and just take a moment to check in again. Simply noticing how you feel now compared to when you started. I remember yoga, we see a lot of, as I say, we see a lot of beautiful people who are very bendy, a lot of ex-dancers, ex-gymnasts, whatever, come to yoga because they're flexible, and that's not what it's about. It's about becoming more flexible in the mind, and it took me a long time to get that as well. I came into yoga with an ego, and I'm not hypermobile, but I wanted to achieve all these poses because it looks good. I could show off. I could, oh, look what I can do, you can't do. And that is pure ego. And it's taken me a long time to realize that it doesn't matter, and that actually in some ways I don't want to use the word a better teacher, but probably a more empathetic teacher, because I'm not hypermobile. And a lot of people who are very, very mobile struggle to comprehend the fact that not everyone is. So they kind of think, why can't people do what I can do? It's easy. It's easy. Just do this. It's easy. But it's not easy for everyone. In fact, it's not easy for the majority of the population. Hypermobility is a quirk of fate. It's not a skill. It's a quirk of fate. And actually, people who are hypermobile are often more prone to injury because they lack the strength, and sometimes, as I say, it's very easy to get carried away. So there are, although it looks great, there are downsides. So there are kind of like positives to being stiff, in other words. So you still get all the benefits, which is to find stillness. Because we're so not good with stillness. I was talking to someone the other day, and I used to be like this as well. One of my students who struggles to sit still because she feels guilty if she's not doing something. It's like, I've got to be doing, I'm wasting time if I'm not doing something. And we have that mentality. And I used to be like it. It's like I used to couldn't be able to sit still for more than 5 minutes. It's like, I've got to be doing something. So we struggle with stillness. And we're so overstimulated nowadays with, we've got 24-hour television, which we didn't even have when I was younger. We've got computers in our pocket, we've got all these apps, we've got emails, we've got so much information that our mind is not used to stillness. So our mind kind of, we're running on adrenal burnout because we're so overstimulated, under exercise, so we can't sleep, we're kind of like wired and tired, and it's really not good. But the ultimate aim of practice is stillness. Stillness of the mind, stillness of the body. So being able to be still without fidgeting, without twitching, without feeling guilty, and finding that still point where our mind is quiet, even if it's just for a few seconds. And you'll notice how your ego hates the quiet. It will do things like give you a running commentary, like, oh, I'm getting bored now, or how long am I going to stay here for? Oh, that bit feels uncomfortable. Oh, I can hear such and such outside. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Or did I remember to do dinner? What am I going to have for lunch? Blah, blah, and on and on and on. Your mind hates quiet. And it's learning to observe those thoughts without joining in the conversation, without debating, without trying to derive meaning, just literally learning to listen. And after a while, that steady stream of chatter, a bit like someone who's chatting away to you, if you don't respond, eventually they get bored and go away. It might take a while, but eventually they will shut up and go away. So it's imagining having that annoying friend who's just blah, 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 and the more you try and, shut them up, the more they carry on. And just being able to just observe without getting involved, just let it wash over you, without labeling it as pleasant or unpleasant, right or wrong, good or bad, it just is. And after a while, they'll get bored and they'll shut up. And that's what we're aiming for, stillness. So the physical poses, the physical practices are purely to prepare your body and mind for stillness. So it doesn't matter whether you can balance on your head. It doesn't matter whether you can touch the floor with your hands or whether you use blocks. It's all just a fun way of preparing you for this stillness. So even if you had a day when you struggled, I want you to smile. Give me another horse impression. Inhale through the nose. Exhale. Notice how that, as I can't help but make you smile. Do that again. Inhale through the nose. Exhale. So not only does it lift your mood because it makes you smile, makes your face all tingly or releases tension in your jaw, tension you may not have even known that you were holding. Now you can decide to stay here a while longer, or if you decide to finish your practice, just begin to stretch out the arms and legs, moving in whatever way feels good for you. No rush, no hurry, feel your way, be as mindful coming out as you were throughout the practice. Sometimes I'm a poet and I just didn't know it. And in your own time, in your own way, bringing yourself back up to sitting. If you decide you want to stay where you are, just stay where you are. If not, if you are bringing yourself back up, when you get there, rub your hands together, connect right and left side of the body. I'm just going to finish with 3 humming bee breaths. So we inhale through the nose, and as you exhale, you just hum. I want you to feel the vibrations, okay? We're not singing, we just feel the vibrations. So we're going to close our eyes. You're going to place one hand on top of the other over your heart space, so you feel the vibration there. Then close your eyes, take a deep breath in. And more. You can even try a different pitch if you like. Bring your hands to your heart, heart to your hands. Take a little bow to seal your practice, like putting a lid on a jar of goodness, so that you can open that jar and let out that goodness anytime you choose. So enjoy the rest of your day. Any questions, any comments, please let me know. And yeah, enjoy your day. Fantastic, well done. Absolutely fantabulous. If you have any questions about props or anything as well, they are quite good to get a couple of bricks, because they are handy for things like that, for bringing the floor closer to you. And even if you can just kind of barely put fingertips on the floor, actually having something to press against, I do see people visibly sinking deeper into the stretch, because it's like feeling a bit more supported. If you're barely touching, you don't feel supported, whereas if you've got something to press against, it's like the body goes, oh, okay, I can sink deeper. And as usual, the cats think these make great freaking scratching toys. But here we go. There we go. There we go.